Hey, what's up, Plus Ultra fam? It's me, Plus Ultra Man, bringing you a brand new and extremely far-fetched What If here on the channel. Now, I am completely aware that Frieza would never turn good. It is a total impossibility in terms of character, circumstances, and incentives. There is absolutely nothing there in the story to allow me to reasonably craft a scenario where Frieza is a good guy without pulling a bunch of strings. Understand, I've been watching, studying, and loving these characters and this story almost as long as I've been alive, so I understand that Frieza can't turn good. But similar things could have been said about Saiyans turning good, so let's try that avenue instead. Besides, I'm not the first person to try the scenario, and Moscow X kind of put the idea in my head, so go yell at them first. Now, to set this up, I want to adapt one scene from the Dragon Ball Z anime into the story. See, in the anime, there's this one particular hard hit that I've always absolutely loved. It carries so much weight and power and just, ooh, look at how Frieza's head dents in, I love it. So what if that hit scrambled Frieza more than it was actually meant to? That's how we'll start this off, meaning the story up until the fight between these two titans stays the same, but that awesome elbow drop is canon and knocks Frieza completely out. Goku is aware that Frieza could survive in space, but he isn't sure if he'll survive the actual explosion of Namek, or he could be bluffing, and because he wants to fight him again later once he's stronger, he decides to scoop Frieza up and try and get him to safety. This leaves him a bit more time to find his ship than in canon, so he goes to Frieza's ship first and tries to get it running, with that failing. King Kai yells at him to leave Frieza and get out of there now, but he ignores him and runs off, still carrying the tyrant. Thankfully, he finds the Ginyu Force's space pods. Now, neither the anime or original manga tell us if there was only a single pod left, so let's say that the entire Force's pods are still present. He chucks Frieza into one and jumps in another, not even aware that both were programmed to go to the exact same place, as they blast off at the very last possible minute before Namek completely explodes. King Kai relays to the others that Goku had sadly died in the explosion, but let's not focus on what happens on Earth in this timeline. Landing on Yardrat, Goku is taken from his pod and healed as part of the Yardratians' hospitality. He ends up waking up a while later in some kind of healing room or hospital. There, standing over him, is Frieza, which scares the absolute hell out of him. He startles, and so does Frieza, both of them scurrying to opposite sides of the room. Though shocked and wary of his opponent, Goku finally asks what Frieza was doing here, and the Emperor of the Universe asks what he is doing here. No, seriously, what was he doing here? Who is Goku? Where are they? Who is he? Goku was confused, but upon further investigation, he finds that Frieza remembers absolutely nothing. That's why he was asking him all these questions. Frieza had awoken first and been asking the Yardratians these same questions, but since they arrived together, the Yardratians thought that Goku might have the answers he seeks. Goku thinks back to what happened to him as a baby, and what Raditz said about his head injury may be giving him amnesia. It was the only thing that made sense in this situation. So he tells Frieza everything that he personally knows about him, from destroying his home planet to his tyranny. He then squares up ready to fight his opponent once again. This just scares Frieza though. He has absolutely no memory of any of the things he's just been accused of doing, so it wasn't fair to have him fight. Besides that, he didn't even know how to fight. Then, the Frieza of this timeline does something that the actual Frieza would never ever do. He drops to his knees, almost crying in fear, and profusely apologizes. Goku is shook. This made absolutely no sense. What he had heard and learned of Frieza's behavior did not match up with who he was currently talking to. Not one to force people into situations like this. He tells Frieza it's okay and to stop crying. As far as he saw, if Tien, Piccolo, and at this point Vegeta could be forgiven for their actions, at least by him, then so could Frieza. Goku tells Frieza that it's all good and that he's not going to fight him. It wouldn't even be fun at this point. I think with Frieza being in this blank-minded state, he might revert to kind of a childish way. He isn't the most mature of characters in canon anyway. When mad or angry, he's a sore loser, and he throw a tantrum. So seeing Goku as a strong and merciful person to him, he may see him as a bit of a role model at this point. So the two finish this day at the Yardratian healing location, and are set up with a place to stay while Goku does his training to control Super Saiyan. That said, the Yardratians wouldn't know who Frieza is by name alone, and this could cause some conflict. I actually want to adapt some of the Goku and Yardrat manga to deal with this. So I actually want to put the characters of Soba and Hushu into the story, but the Frieza Force soldiers from the manga will not be sent here. So Soba calls Goku to speak with him, and they go over the concerns of Goku being a part of the Frieza forces because of the ship, fears which are only worsened by Goku referring to his companion as Frieza. Remember, no one had ever seen Frieza's final form to tell of it, so Frieza may resemble his first form, but not enough for any of them to be sure that it's the actual Frieza. Hearing this and thinking of an excuse, Goku just tells them that he's defeated the Ginyu Force and stole their ship, and his friend was actually named Freezer. Frieza and Freezer were just of the same race with similar names, but they were nothing alike. In fact, Goku had actually defeated the real Frieza. And Soba can't call this to be a lie, because Frieza's ki does feel to be completely of a pure soul. So Goku asks to be taught the instant transmission technique, and they're led to the Yardratian elder, Hushu. Goku dragging the newly dubbed Freezer along to help him get some training in as well. Now the teacher could read Goku's mind and find out who Freezer really is, but once Goku explains the situation, I think Hushu could be convinced to at the very least allow Goku to try his little redemption experiment, and at the most, maybe help him train Frieza. Now for time constraints, I'm going to summarize a lot of their time on Yardrat. Anything else that happens in canon not involving Frieza would pretty much take place in the same way. Goku spends his time with the Yardratian elder Hushu to control the Super Saiyan form, as well as learn the instant transmission technique, while both he and Hushu teach Frieza the basics of fighting, like ki control and how to control his awesome power. Frieza had even forgotten how to transform, so he couldn't limit himself with his other forms anymore. Frieza learns very quickly just by the virtue of being very intelligent, and grows stronger very fast. He gets close to Goku, and the two start to develop a relationship similar to what Goku and Krillin have in canon, as ironic as that is. But sadly, Hushu does succumb to old age, and Frieza is really sad by this. He had come to see the old Yardratian as his grandpa Gohan in a way. And again, we see this Frieza do something that the real Frieza would never do. He lets a death bother him. In fact, this death cements in his mind that this new path is the right one for him. Goku had told him what he knew about him, but Hushu, being much older and knowing better about the tyrant's history, could have given him a much more detailed list of his past. Frieza vows here and now on his mentor's death to protect those weaker than him and completely dismantle the Frieza forces. He'd even start a force meant to protect and help people in the universe if he could. The rest of their time is spent mastering new techniques and refining Frieza into a real martial artist. And yes, the two would definitely train together in sparring matches that would give them some amazing gains. But for all those who are thinking it, no, Frieza will not receive his golden form at this time. That form came forth after Frieza spent over a decade in Hiffle reflecting on all his failures with fiery hatred. Then the 4 months of training he did after that. Here, his training is more about refinement and learning, but his potential is still incredible. I could definitely see Frieza gaining access to his 100% power without needing to be a big bulky form anymore. And say that he could get maybe 1 million, probably 1 billion times stronger would be a major lowball. But let's say that he grows about 10 times stronger from this point, while Goku is the one to really make some amazing gains, since he has such an amazing training partner. As for an in-story reason as to why he's not growing too much stronger from this training, let's say that because he's having to learn from the ground up, he's not really focusing on powering up, as much as he's just learning how to control himself. But finally, the time to return to Earth comes, and Frieza and Goku set off there in their Ginyu Force attack balls. Everything that happens with Trunks coming to the location that Goku would land in still happens, but there is no King Cold. The King is currently scouring the galaxy for his missing son, since Frieza couldn't tell him about Earth since he's not there to be picked up by King Cold. So he ends up having to wait for Goku to arrive. When he grows close, because his and Frieza's power levels are so massive now, the Z fighters are actually drawn there just by feeling him. Now this would cause utter chaos. Not only is Goku arriving with somebody else with him that nobody else knows about, but there's also a stranger here as well as all the Z fighters arriving one by one, causing any explanation to be repeated to that person. So finally, Trunks breaks the chaos of questions by turning Super Saiyan, and everyone pays attention to him. He asks Goku to please speak to him privately, and Goku complies. Now while the two have their conversation, everyone is curious as to who is in the other pod. They were even stronger than Goku, and to those who are on Namek, vaguely familiar in a way. Vegeta, completely unable to wait, finally yells at whoever was inside the pod to reveal themselves, and the door opens. Goku wanted to prepare everyone so the first meeting didn't turn violent, but at this point it was impossible to wait any longer. Frieza steps out of his pod looking extremely nervous and greets everyone with sincere and genuine respect. But that, Plus Ultra fam, will be leaving this story off for now. I want to hold back on this one because I'm not sure how well it's going to be received. I'd rather not sink a bunch of time to a video that could be hated by you guys. I also want to leave a lot of the future of this What If up to you guys. So in the iCard above, there are several polls. You get to decide things like how the majority of the Z Fighters will react to Frieza, how badly Vegeta reacts, or will Frieza unlock a fifth form like Cooler. This is all up to you, so be sure to go up there and vote. And if you guys don't want to see this What If continue, then I can simply say that having Frieza on the team simply overpowers the Z Fighters for every other fight they have to go into. They have a very strong training partner and a proverbial nuke if they really need to use it. So this story could end right here if you don't want me to go any more in depth with it. It's all up to you. Finally, if by any chance you all want to see a part 2, I will guarantee it if this video reaches 30,000 views. That's a little under double my subscribers, so it should be pretty fair. That means you guys truly have all the power here, so be sure to use it. Also, tell me what you think about this video, comment and subscribe. Follow me on my social media platforms, and as always, go beyond Plus Ultra. See you guys next time.